It's been quite a ride, as you guys know, for Manoah. I mean, you look back a couple of years, he was great. He was a Cy Young
Yeah.
finalist. Then, last year he wasn't in the greatest shape.
I have Ben Nicholson-Smith joining us to talk a little Blue Jays at the moment. Give him a follow at B Nicholson-Smith. Ben, great to have you on again. And let's get right into the Blue Jays. So this team has had a mediocre start to the season. I'll hit you with a hard one right from the jump. Do you think the Blue Jays will be buyers or sellers 2 months from now?
It's wild because that's an actual question that needs to be asked at this point. And, going into the season, as you guys know, there was a lot of hope that this team could actually be pretty good and that they would be buyers. I mean, that's what they've done for the last 4 years in a row. So to be at this point now, they're 17-20. They have not played well. They've not hit well. They have questions in their bullpen. Obviously, you play it out. It's May the 10th. They still have time. But I think it's becoming a real question. And it's never been easier for me to imagine that they actually might sell.
All right. When is Ross Atkins' name going to be on the block? Because he's already fired a manager. He can't fire my roommate, John Schneider. That's the easy way out. He took the easy way out in the playoffs last year and said, we had nothing to do with it. The proverbial front office had nothing to do with the decision. When does Ross Atkins, if this team doesn't turn around, when is he bounced?
Well, he's facing the heat right now from fans, from media. I think that the way this team has started, very disappointing fashion after a pretty underwhelming offseason for the Jays, that's put pressure on Ross Atkins. And I think you're right, Eric, to say that, you look at, okay, he already had John Gibbons. That was a guy he kind of inherited. Charlie Montoyo, he hired and then fired. John Schneider, he's hired and now extended. So to me, it stands to reason that Ross Atkins probably doesn't get another shot anytime soon to hire another manager. So I think John Schneider, you look at the team that he's been handed and the problems that they've faced, I can't put this on Schneider. I certainly have some questions like batting George Springer leadoff. Not sure that's the best way to go. But end of the day, as you guys know, leadoff, fifth, it's not going to make the entire difference in a season. So I do think that Atkins is going to have to answer some questions if this continues. And who knows, they might make a change.
Ben, this team did not have a great offense last year. You could call it underperforming, although it just hasn't consistently put together, the big numbers that we thought it would. It's happening again this year. So my question is, from the offseason, they went after Ohtani. That was clear. That would have been a massive help for the offense. We all agree with that.
Sure.
Why was that it? Like, I know there was a plan for Ohtani and a plan for everyone else, and that you can go to an astronomical number because of the marketing value that he can bring. I get that. But then why was there such a drop off after Ohtani to just not work on improving the offense at all?
Yeah. You look at IKF, Kiermaier, Justin Turner. There's nothing against these players. They're obviously good players, but they needed to do more. And I kept thinking, as the offseason went on, like, what about a Rhys Hoskins, for example, or a Willy Adames to try to trade for him from the Brewers? And of course, the price would have been high. The Brewers, we're seeing right now, they're a competitive team. It's not like they would have given Willy Adames away, but there could have been ways to maybe get creative and try to add someone who can be a middle of the order bat, because we're seeing that George Springer, he's fallen off. Bo Bichette having a really, really rough season to this point in the year. Even Vladdy has fallen off. So they have this offensive kind of hole, really, as a team. They're really underperforming offensively. And I think there was a window in the offseason to address some of that. And if you look back at their moves, they were underwhelming at the time. And I agree with you that they continue to look underwhelming now.
Just kind of thinking out loud here. Let's say they hit a little rut, or more of a rut, and become sellers. Is anybody off limits?
I don't think so. I mean,
I don't think so either.
It would get really interesting, right? Because, okay, so the obvious ones are, and I know we're getting ahead of ourselves now. Well,
Yes,
obviously
hypothetical.
the Blue Jays hope, they don't want to go down this path. But I think the obvious ones are Jimmy Garcia and Yusei Kikuchi. I mean, Kikuchi's been amazing now for a full calendar year. He's a guy that you could put into any contender's rotation. He could start playoff games. I mean, the way he's going, I think that he looks like a frontline starting pitcher on the brink of free agency, of course. So that's a guy who moves. Jimmy Garcia, he's been hurt the last 10 days. He hasn't pitched. but he was amazing the entire month of April. So Jimmy Garcia is a guy that, again, you slot him toward the back of a bullpen, any contender would want that guy in the late innings. So those guys I think would move, very, very, very likely because every contender needs pitching. Then you get to, okay, Justin Turner, Danny Jansen, Kevin Kiermaier, those are all pending free agents. So you see what happens there. And of course, the big question, like Bo Bichette and Vlad Guerrero Jr., which they're free agents after 2025. So there's another year. No one in this Blue Jays organization is going to want to give those guys away. But do you listen, right? Like, do the Dodgers place a call on Bichette? Do the Padres place a call on Vladdy? Like, stranger things have happened. So I think those possibilities are worth considering.
Is it time? Is it time for Danny Jansen to play every day and Alejandro Kirk to just become his backup?
I think it is, partly because the Jays just need the offense. And, we're seeing Danny Jansen just tapping into that pull power. He is so good at just getting around and pulling fly balls. And it's hard to do, especially it seems on this lineup, there are not a lot of guys who are getting the ball in the air and who are hitting for any kind of power, but Danny Jansen can do that. He's been incredible. So, I think that he's someone who, should be out there something like 4 or 5 days a week. Of course, you're going to use Kirk a couple times, but the way Jansen's playing, I know he's had his trouble staying on the field, but he's been incredible. So, I think he should be hitting, 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere in the middle of that batting order, playing on a regular basis. And you look at him on a per game basis, like you even it out to 500 plate appearances, 600 plate appearances. This is like a 30 home run hitter. Like, he's actually got some real power.
What have you noticed if you've been covering them for a while now, when you've seen Manoah come back? Have you noticed anything, the difference in him or what he looks like or what you see, why the results just aren't there right now?
It's been quite a ride, as you guys know, for Manoah. I mean, you look back a couple of years, he was great. He was a Cy Young finalist. Then, last year, he wasn't in the greatest shape. And so even if you compare the video last year to this year, you can tell he's more athletic on the mound. So that's a step forward. Even, his momentum, his delivery has gotten more athletic. So he's moving down the mound better. He's able to channel that energy down the mound better and harness it toward home plate. But still, he's not to the point that he's consistently throwing strikes. And I've talked to people who say, he's not fully repeating his delivery yet. I mean, it's one start back, so he still has some time maybe to work through that. But the delivery and the strike throwing is what I'm looking at, just to see if he can consistently repeat that and get to the point that he is throwing strikes and getting ahead instead of falling behind 2-0, 2-1 to really good hitters.
Stats, body shape, all that stuff, we can see that on TV. What is the mental? Have you talked to him? What is his mental side in the sense of like his confidence, the things that you can see? I'm not saying to get into his head, but the things that you can see. Is there a difference?
Yeah. I actually think he's in a better mental place this year than last year. And that's from talking to him in spring training. I wasn't there in Washington this past weekend when he made that start, but he's been around the team pretty consistently this year, and he seems like he's in a pretty good headspace. So that's a step in the right direction. I mean, it's not everything, but it's a step in the right direction. I think compared to last year, it actually does seem like he's in a better place.
I'm going to bring some positive vibes. I love watching Dalton Varsho in the outfield. Do you think he has a shot of winning the Platinum Glove? And can you tell us how the development has been for him, the outfield? I just want to remind everyone that he was a catcher and he was super athletic, and it was a catcher outfielder who can run and then starts to pick up steam in the outfield, and that becomes his home. And now he's potentially the best defensive outfielder, at least top 3 in baseball. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's been impressive to watch. He's so good out there. And this is in an outfield where you also have Kevin Kiermaier. So, we've seen some pretty elite outfielders defensively here in the last year or two. But Varsho's incredible. He just gets great jumps. He's fast out there. He is really good at making those kind of judgment calls with his body, whether to dive, whether to crash into a wall. He never seems in between. Like, it always seems like he's making the right call. That's not an easy thing to do, I'm sure. So he just has great instincts. He's making good decisions. He's fast. It's just all adding up. It's an incredible combination out there. And I think when you look at the numbers, obviously, that tells you he's objectively the best defensive outfielder in baseball since the Jays acquired him. And that's a huge difference for this pitching staff.
Ben, if I go through all the archives, did you write a bad article about my friend, the fact that they traded Gabriel Moreno for Dalton Varsho last year, and Dalton Varsho hit what he hit? Because you have to be honest, did you write anything bad last year about my guy Dalton?
I honestly don't think I did. I mean, there were enough problems with that
you were the
team.
One.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, everyone knows Moreno had a great season. Obviously, that was a tough one for the Jays, especially the way he did in the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, look, and you can look through my archive. I've written a lot of bad articles. I've had a lot of bad takes. I'm just saying that maybe that might specifically not be one. So good, I'm not saying I've had my whiffs. Don't worry. But
I like it.
But
I like it.
I think that he's been amazing for this team, obviously.
Well, Ben, thank you for the catch up. We'll see what happens. Obviously, we'll have you back, especially if we start to hear all those big names fly around. If this team doesn't turn things around in a super competitive division, go check out Ben's work. Gave the Twitter handle also on Sportsnet. You can see him, read about him, the whole deal. Ben, thank you so much. Appreciate you, man.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.